Race number 2 of the Patreon Grand Prix Series means that the final cards are being turned now. Will you hit the proverbial 21 or go bust in your final outing as a Patreon competitor? Here at Casino Square, we welcome you once again. Hey everybody, I'm Greg Woods. We saw a fantastic race the first time out from these athletes who are sometimes proving themselves to be athletes. These are not professional Marbula 1 racers, but you wouldn't know it by some of the racing moves that we saw across these 15 turns just 1 week ago. Dana won the race 5:05, but it was a fairly close spread. Look, just 10 seconds separating the first from the last finisher. Joshua Davenport did not finish. He had a little shove from Kalen NRN to send him off the track. Thankfully, everybody is okay. Our same racers back this time, but with a new grid order and with a lot of eyes on the scoring pylon because the final results are cumulative from last week to this one. Gretchen will sit in the first spot in front of Joshua, Comics Kid, and Just back in row 2. In the third row, Kalen next to Eric. C-Sub has the inside of row 4, along with Brian. And back on row 5, Roberto and Brody. The 6th row sees Hyrax Nixus next to Christopher Price. Yuri and Aiden fill out row 7. Melissa and Coup de Greg back on row number 8. And in our back couple of rows, Sarek and Dennis sharing row 9 together, just in front of Dana and Siri to round out our 20. Here we go, in the blocks. You can hear the crowd cheering for this one. They've had a preview last week of what these marbles are capable of doing in a race situation. What do they do today? And we are rolling. Gretchen and Joshua head into the turns there, and Joshua does the over-under. But here comes Gretchen once again. Comics Kid trying to hold off Eric back there in the 4th spot. Oh, and hard against the wall, losing some of those spots was Eric. Gretchen tries to disappear off into the distance. Joshua can't hold back the floodgates and loses a position, but is able to try to fend off more and get them back. Down the backstretch we go. Gretchen into the distance as Joshua coming up there. Comics Kid is fighting 3 wide with several marbles back there further in the field. And we come up the conveyor belt for the first time in this 9-lap race. Comics Kid fighting with Brody up there. And Brody cannot hold the spot. In fact, loses a position, I believe, to Just. Gretchen's lead has come down. Here comes Comics Kid. Brody, Comics Kid, Joshua, Just, Dennis, Aiden, Eric, C-Sub, and Roberto rounding out the top 10. Comics Kid has taken the lead. Through the chicane they go. Gretchen, a great start, but has slowly come back toward the field. Look at how tight this midfield battle is, a third of the way through this Grand Prix. Comics Kid and Gretchen both tiptoeing around the curbs before going over that attenuator. We've seen that in the actual Marbula 1 Grand Prix. That could be a pivotal moment, which side you choose to take. Through the double right-hander before the drop. Just getting a little squirrely back there and loses positions. Here comes Gretchen for a challenge on the lead, but can't get it done that time. Are they side by side as they come up the belt? Oh, 1 step apart. Pretty even on the launch over the start-finish line. Around the hairpin. The gap is down to 2 lengths. Off the inside wall. That little chevron shooting them back to the racing line. Oh, Comics Kid bumped against that shark fin and lost some speed because of it and lost the lead because of it. It was subtle. If you blink, you miss it. Wow, Eric really getting discombobulated back there in the final sector and lost several more positions. Lots of movement that we saw in the first race. Several competitors coming up double-digit number of spots. In some cases, vice versa, falling that many. Dana back in last. There is Gretchen. Comics Kid fighting with Just. C-Sub in fourth, Brody and Dennis. You saw him just briefly on your screen, being fired from a cannon. That's Eric. Finding some speed after losing concentration a few times. Eric is on a march trying to climb up the field. Comics Kid and Gretchen are right back together. Just a few laps to go in this one. Now some separation. I believe there was contact, and that gave Gretchen some breathing room, but here comes Comics Kid again. The over-under right before the drop. Gets it done, but shooting down the backstretch is Gretchen to retake P1. This is a great battle between the top two. We see so many competitors nailing that chicane this time. They got practice in the first Grand Prix, and they are navigating it beautifully this time. Perhaps a fake move there with a bit of extra contact. Comics Kid holding on. The lead going back and forth between them multiple times, sometimes in the same lap. Comics Kid dodges that shark fin on the drop this time, and is able to hold the lead all the way across the line. 2 to go. Contact there. That was a heavy hit from Kalen on Aiden, I believe. And meanwhile, back up front. Lead actually stretching this time. Just has gotten up into second place over Gretchen. Really, several of these top marbles, their speed really fluctuates. They're not able to keep that peak performance all the way throughout. Not that we expect them to, but that does lead to some great racing. Side by side, these two go down through the chicane. As we head into the final lap, C-Sub has gotten up into second place over Gretchen and Just. Comics Kid is several corners ahead right now, but that is coming down now to just a couple of corners ahead. Final lap, what can Comics Kid do? We see a few battles farther back in the field. Oh, that's going to be some interesting conversation back behind. Comics Kid, who finished fourth in the first Grand Prix, enters the final sector and comes around the final turn to win the second Patreon Grand Prix. Who will get second? It's Gretchen over C-Sub. Just and Brody rounding out the top 5. Then it's Brian, Aiden, Dennis, Sarek, and Yuri. Eric, Dana, Kalen, Roberto, Melissa, Siri, Joshua, Hyrax, Christopher Price, and Coup de Greg, who did not usurp any marbles back there in 20th. Solid start between several of these marbles. And look at the contact down there into turns number 2, 3. Here right before the drop. That proved to be a very pivotal place. Look at some of these marbles leaping up in the air as they hit that entry curb through the chicane. If you can avoid that leap up in the air and keep more of your momentum going forward, or in this case sideways and forward, that will pay dividends later on. This backstretch had some great racing. You can tell they've watched the previous MARBULA 1 races here. Timing is everything at Casino Square. There was that subtle nudge that cost Comics Kid the lead. But in the end, that yellow marble beats the time from the previous Grand Prix and jumps up 3 spots to take the win. Gretchen, C-Sub, Just, Brody, and on back. So the aggregate time between them, that is what matters here. And Comics Kid is our winner, beating Brody, Finney, and Just. Look at how tight that was. 0.2 of a second between Just and Dana, and another 0.3 back to C-Sub. This is across over 10 minutes of racing. That is impressive. Congratulations to our winners. Of course, none of this would have been possible without our Patreon members, without those of you who support this channel through thick and thin, and we thank you for it. You allow us to keep making these videos and to keep bringing you the content that you so enjoy. A shout out to our YouTube members and to our Patreon members. You can find out how to be a part of both of those groups in the description below. Also, you can find out more about what's coming down the pipeline, which includes the Marble Survival 100. You prepared for it? Batten down the hatches because it's a doozy and it's coming soon. We hope that you will be a part of it.